welcome to the Lynn and Scott Show. Plus friends. Oh, and I got another friend that just walked in. So
also known as
everybody.
the Looney Bin Podcast. Here we go.
If you guys were the fly on the wall before the show, and Scott just bumped himself out, it was hilarious. We talked from taxes to not paying taxes. No, taxes to movies that Rex doing. I mean, to all sorts of stuff. Welcome back, Scott.
I was just, you know what? I was just a cameo. I mean, I said 3 words and then I was out. That was it. Always leave them wanting more. That's what I said.
How are you, Scott? You got your hair cut, so.
I got my hair cut. I got my beard trimmed, and
I can see more of your face now.
And I'm eating nothing but salads, and I'm absolutely miserable. So,
yeah.
Welcome to hell.
It's good to see you. Yeah, welcome to health, he said. I think.
Welcome to hell or to health? Which one?
Health.
Oh, okay.
There was an LTH on the end.
Oh, okay. All right. It could have just been the devil with a lisp. How would I know? All right.
Devil with a
lisp.
Enough
with the ex-wives.
I like that. That's funny.
Oh,
Walt.
gosh.
Walt, how are you, brother?
What's going on, y'all? How you guys doing?
Good. You're doing some major things. Love hearing your voice and your wife's voice on your podcast. So loving it.
Yeah, she's got that smooth radio operator voice on this podcast, which is so good. And it's been a lot of fun. So almost 400 downloads in the first 2 weeks. And so feeling super blessed about that and just that masculine and feminine energy of this Legacy Warrior podcast. It's been a blessing to do it with her, most importantly for me.
I love it. Love it.
I am so excited for you. Just please self-promote for a second. Where can we find that podcast if people want to find you?
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And so it's Legacy Warrior Podcast. You can find it literally on every major podcast platform from Apple, Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, even Amazon Music, which is weird. I didn't know they had podcasts.
Yeah, you could just take Walt's name and put it in Google and it'll come up.
Perfect.
So it's
I haven't tried that one yet. Look, hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up.
Oh.
And
then you can say like Steve Martin, you go, I'm a somebody. I won't forget when I published my first podcasting thing. I definitely Googled my name and go, the podcast showed up. Wow. So I know it usually works. So.
Well, thank you for the support, guys. I appreciate you all.
Absolutely. That's what we love to do.
Fantastic.
So
like we all want to support each other. We all got projects and different things going on. So definitely we want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't tuned into some of these people before, or just look them up. There's so many great things going on with every one of them. And they're all writing books, except for me. I'm coloring in some of them, but I'm not writing any yet. But they're all writing books and doing their thing. Lynn, you got a whole cacophony of books there, don't you?
Yeah, she sure does. She's always at the ready.
Yeah. And I was reading Walt's book. So I think,
I got Walt's book here. I got Walt's book here.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But mine's by my bed, I believe. Yeah.
All right.
So,
I keep forgetting to bring your book in here so I can hold your book up and we can embarrass you sometimes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Anyhow,
that was very fast, Lynn. Put that back up there.
Yeah, I know, really.
It's okay.
Look at my book, quick.
Right. Anyhow, so I love the topic you picked today, Scott.
One of the things I was thinking, we were always trying to delve into telling people about, we do talk about ourselves, and that's what certainly good speakers do, is they relate their own information, and people do with it what they will. But sometimes I think we forget to just kind of like let loose and just be people and be personal. So I'd like to kind of maybe take a moment for all of us to share our own inspirational moments, like moments in your life that really kind of changed you and brought you inspiration. And the reason I like to do this is because people can connect with those things too, those kind of random things that happen to us, because maybe they're not noticing those miraculous moments in their life, or maybe they're thinking, I don't have any, but if we share ours, maybe they could look back and say, wait a minute, maybe I do have some good moments. Maybe I've got some good inspiration. So, and I'll start off, I'll tell you, certainly I've got a lot of moments in my life that were really inspirational for me. The miracle of getting clean and sober when I thought that I was going to die addicted and drunk. The miracle of not spending my life in prison, the miracle of being able to own my own business and do my own thing. But there's one above all others, which is watching the change in my daughter And my daughter went from being locked up in a mental ward, in and out of jail, in and out of treatment centers, and suicide attempt after suicide attempt, to where she is today. And Lynn, could you throw that picture up? She sent me this picture the other day. She's hanging out in Rhode Island at a coffee shop, and she is living her best life. She's married her best friend. She is back in school, learning a trade, doing her thing, and she is bright, and she even can bring perspective to my life. You know, the daughter is bringing perspective to dad's life with the things she's learning at such a young age. It inspires me. I look at this picture and I want to cry every time, because I know the ugliness that used to exist, the scary, the fear, all of those things that used to be wrapped up. Just looking at a picture of her, and I would think, oh my God, she's that close to death. And to see her today and to listen to her as we chat every day, I am blessed beyond blessed. And that inspires me every day, no matter what's going on. Keep moving forward, keep doing the right things, and be the father that she deserves. So that's my daughter, Cordy. And if she's listening, which I know she listens to the repeats, I love you. Okay, so that's my inspiration. I want to share.
Beautiful.
Aww.
Hey, where in Rhode Island is she, Scott? I'm just curious.
What is that fancy schmancy place?
It's not Providence. I know what you're talking about.
Providence. It's Providence. No, it's Providence.
It's Providence? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only place in Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island.
It's really not that big a place.
I don't know. There's 18 people. You know, you just stop and see where am I today?
They must have grown then. 18. Wow.
She's she's absolutely just, you know, and the only way I could experience that is if I'm present in my life. I missed a great part of her life because I was buried in a bottle, buried in depression, buried in anxiety. And when she first learned to walk and learned to talk and all those great moments, I missed all of those. I got kicked out of the operating room when she was born, you know, because I was so drunk. They didn't want me to be near the baby. I think it could have been a contact high she could have got from there were vapor trails following me. I had so much alcohol in me, and I got removed from the operating room when she was born. And it was I missed so many moments, and I don't ever want to miss those moments again. And I think that's why I want to talk about inspirational moments. If you're not present in your life, you miss them. You have to be present to really experience them. I'm present today. That's why I can really experience all of this. Lynn, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, you see, you're living to be blessed by being sober now, to enjoy the time you have. We can never fix what we've done. And all of us as parents have messed up our kid one way or another. I mean, it's because that's just how it goes. I mean, even a kid that has everything doesn't think he has everything. I mean, it's a perspective, and nothing's appreciated till you get older. So again, you know, these are the days that she'll remember and you remember, and to know that you got through all that shit, you're an inspiration to her too. And she, you know, and I remember 2 years ago being over at your house and worrying about her and her coming around the corner. So I'm just so grateful to see that, you know, you're here for all that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. When I talk about sobriety, folks, I just want to make this clear. I'm not against alcohol. If you drink, I don't care. I'm not even against drugs. If you do drugs, that's up to you. For me, it just doesn't work in my life. What sobriety is for me is everything I need to do to be present in my day and to live the best moment I can in the moment that I have. And that's what my sobriety. And I can't do that with alcohol and drugs because I'm allergic to it. I don't blame alcohol for the problem. If I did, I would have assassinated Jack Daniels years ago and saved everybody. But that alcohol is not the problem.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody thinks it's like, oh, Scott hates alcohol. No, I don't. I think the problem is I love it. That's my problem. No.
Yeah. Can I add
sobriety for me is about being present. What's that?
I just want to add something to Scott. Scott, I got to tell you, like we've known each other, gosh, I don't know, maybe almost a year now. Freaking crazy how time flies. But I just have to applaud your vulnerability and authenticity, even for things, you know, we all coach, we're all vulnerable, even on this team, but just in general in life. But the level of vulnerability you show with those missteps that you had in your life, the ability to come back from those and share genuine, heartwarming stories like you just shared about your daughter, but it's because you took responsibility for yourself and the decisions that you made. but you didn't stay in regret. You kept moving forward. You kept pushing to increase your own potential as a human being. I got to tell you, I just applaud it. And I'm not saying this to make you feel good. I just genuinely mean it. I won't say something that I don't mean. And so I have mad respect for you for talking about some of those areas of opportunity that you had in your life where you really kind of went sideways, and how you came back from those, and things that I don't even know. And I'm a pretty vulnerable, authentic dude that I don't know that I would share in the same way. You inspire me in that way, bro.
I agree. I mean, and doing podcasts with him going over a year now, I totally agree. He inspires me to be more forward about my things, and he is an inspiration that way. Absolutely.
And by the way, Stephanie said the same thing.
I have to tell you though, I mean, don't give me all the credit. If I had better stories to tell, I'd freaking tell them. if I got trained by Zig Ziglar or somebody else and I could come in and tell you that story. No, I got trained by Bubba, the guy in the cell next to me. Okay. Unfortunately, that's where my training came from. And I can't deny who I am. It's just who I am.
I disagree with you. It's not unfortunate. It's very fortunate.
Well, it's a blessing.
And you couldn't tell a better story. That's the best story you can tell.
That's right.
Somebody that was losing it and became a winner. What the hell? That's the best story you can tell.
Ultimate comeback story.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And
now I'd love to hear your inspirations. I'd love to hear your inspirational moments, guys.
Who, me?
Well, go ahead.
One of you.
Go ahead.
Who?
Well,
Mr.
all right,
Rizzo.
Steve, you're in the center square.
All right. Okay, that's cool. Now you're putting me on the spot.
Okay, Barry.
Whoa. Hold on. Somebody get a calendar. Steve is speaking. Somebody get a calendar.
Okay, shut up, everybody, huh? Yeah. All of a sudden, everyone's eating. Oh, let me say something first, Archie. Jesus. Okay. When I read the description of today's show, so I got three things, and I'm going to make them all short, but they are very profound, and they were the biggest difference makers in my life. The first one that I recall is when I was doing stand-up comedy, and I was honored to do my Showtime special, and Woody Harrelson from Cheers at the time was the host of the show, and we had to do the pre-show the night before. So we went in front of a live audience with deciphering how much time I'm going to do and all that kind of stuff. And Woody Harrelson, after the show on the pre-show, came up to me in the green room and he said, Steve, he goes, what do you want for an introduction? And I never thought about an introduction. I said, it just hit me. This brought total clarity to my life when I said to him, you tell them that you're going to bring up a guy that was voted least likely to succeed in his senior class in high school in West Babylon, Long Island. And now he's at the Sands Hotel in Atlantic City in the big room doing his own Showtime special. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Rizzo. Yeah. When I told him that in that green room, a feeling came over me like I even had a hard time finishing the sentence. And he sat down next to me, put his arm around me, gave me a big hug. He goes, that is a fucking cool introduction. And it was the truth. The inspiration I got from that, from going from that and carrying those negative labels through most of my adult life to doing this was incredible. The second thing is when I was inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame, when I became a personal development speaker and I left stand-up comedy. And I always had that doubt that, wow, I left stand-up at a point where my opening acts, Chris Rock and Drew Carey and Rosie O'Donnell and all these people were getting big breaks. And it was always that little doubt in my head saying, what if you would have stayed? What if you would have stayed? Did you make the right move? But for that week, when I knew that I was being inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame and there were thousands of people in the audience, I realized something was happening inside me, and it wasn't an ego thing. Even though you're being honored, my wife at the time was in the audience. My agent from one of the most prestigious speakers bureaus was next to me. My director of business, my brother Michael, who just passed away, was there. His wife. That was all a trip. But the thing that was going through my mind was, as I was being introduced, something hit me and said, oh my God, I'm now free of that. I made the right decision. I knew at that moment that I made the right move at the right time. And when I held on to that award, I even had a hard time giving an acceptance speech because I had no idea what I was going to say. It just came out of me, but that clarity was so intense, and I'll never forget that. And the third thing is when I wrote my book, Conversations with Bob, and you guys know the story, when I was on the beach after my 34-year divorce of marriage, and I was the one that initiated the divorce, and I was totally messed up, and I moved from Long Island to Marina Del Rey, stayed there 2 years. I had to face my demons, and I was on Venice Beach at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I remember screaming out, cursing at God, and saying to myself, why is this happening to me, blah, blah, blah. And I actually knew what it was like to go out of my mind, because I did. I went out of my mind. If anyone would have heard me, they would have dialed 911. And I took a step after I was calm, and I said, what the hell am I doing here? And what's wrong with me? And after I took that step, and I know you guys heard this before, but I heard this voice within me say, you know why you're here, and you know what's wrong. You're just way too caught up in your own drama to find the answer. And I went, what is this? That was my first connection. In all of my search, looking for God, finding out where God was, I finally realized at that moment, God was in here and he was speaking to me in my own voice. That's when I went back to my apartment in Marina Del Rey, took out my laptop. I asked another question, another answer came, another question. I did that for hours and hours. I was exhausted. I went to sleep. I woke up after 8 hours sleep. I looked at what I wrote. I didn't remember writing 3/4 of what I wrote. And then I realized I asked another question, another answer. I had a connection to God, and that connection stayed with me till this day. That was the most important thing that ever happened to me.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Very cool.
Did anybody catch his Freudian slip when he was talking to me? He said 34 years of divorce.
Oh, yeah. 34 years of marriage.
One day I'm married, 34 years of divorce.
Yeah. 40. Maybe it was 34 years I should have gotten a divorce. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. That's great stories there.
Shut up, Scott.
Mr. Hipster. 2 hips.
You know,
2 hips.
Interesting. It's really an interesting topic. One of the things that I went back to, I was phenomenally blessed to play for the amazing Hayden Fry at the University of Iowa. And when Hayden came to Iowa, of course, he said, you know, boys, if we're going to be winners, we're going to look like winners. And our uniforms were the exact Pittsburgh Steelers uniforms at that time, because they had just won multiple Super Bowls and everything. And he said, we're going to do this different, because we're gold and black. And so we're going to, when we come out of the tunnel, the captains will be in front holding hands, and we're going to come out at a 1/4 mile an hour, half jog, and it's called the swarm. And to come out of that tunnel and have everybody just, in essence, jogging in place, as slow as you could possibly come forward, but as a team, into 77,000 people screaming their heads off.
I got chills.
You don't forget that day.
Wow.
You know, it was just absolutely amazing to be able to have that opportunity, and then to carry those kinds of opportunities, to see my daughter playing college volleyball in her very last game in college, her very last tournament, was named to the all tournament team for the NCAA tournament. So to see my athletics and to live that, to then go into her athletics and see that, and it was her last freaking game. She was never going to play college volleyball again, but she played so well. And this is an outside hitter at 5'9".
Wow.
Playing against girls that are 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", and out jumping them.
Wow.
And I mean, she had hops. And to watch that as a parent, to go from doing it to watching your kid as a parent, and then to take those kind of experiences and all of a sudden realize one day I'm at an airport, Providence. It actually was at Providence. We were doing an arena in Providence, so 25,000. And I come down from my flight, and there's a line of drivers, and every driver's got a name of one of the speakers.
The whole town came out. Okay.
And I came down, and I said, "I'm Schilling." And the driver elbowed the driver next to him. He goes, "I told you it wasn't going to be Kurt." So
there goes that.
So,
oh my God.
But to then be on stage,
10 minutes later, Rizzo gets it.
Sorry to ruin your day, guys.
With Colin Powell and Rudy Giuliani and Laura Bush and Susie Orman and Stephen Forbes, and not only share that stage, but share the green room. Mm. And be able to sit and not say a frickin' word, and listen to the brilliance of Colin Powell talking about his leadership talk that he was about to give and how he developed all of that and all of those things. And you go, how did I get here? And you go, I worked hard. That's cool. That means anybody can do that. And people, I mean, I'm very serious about that. You sit and you have those opportunities in life and you don't realize what they are until later on. But the ability to sit there and see Les Brown say to Zig Ziglar, "Zig, I don't get it. You tell the same stuff every time. Why? I change my stuff." And Zig goes, "Well, number one, because the people in this city haven't heard it. Number two, I teach truth, and truth never changes."
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a great line.
The lessons. And so to talk about inspiration when you're sitting there going, "Okay, Zig, that was pretty good. Damn." Right? And to have those opportunities in life, but there's nothing, it sounds weird, but there's nothing special about me to get that opportunity other than wanting to work to serve more people better.
Right.
And when you work at it and you use those inspirational stepping stones, it's amazing what can happen. So my wish for everybody listening to this is that they go back to listening to these different things that everybody shares and find their event where they came out in the swarm. Because you've done this, you're just not remembering it. You're not pulling it back to the top.
That's so awesome. That's so, and I know exactly how you got to those places. You got there by jogging a quarter mile an hour with team exactly. with a bunch of people. That's how you got there.
That's why it took me a long freaking time.
That's what blew his hips out. Jogging that way.
That's right. That's it. When you run in place like that, it takes a lot of damage. You know.
I love that.
Man, that's great. So Scott, thank you so much, man. That's great.
Barry.
Actually, I want to tell two stories. One's about receiving, one's about giving.
Okay, there's no horses in these, right?
No,
I'm just asking. Okay.
For a friend, you were asking.
For a friend.
I've been a student of personal development for years, and back in, God, it's going to be probably 86. Part of the journey I was on was taking what was called ropes courses, like outward bound trainings that we did up in the mountains locally. Working with a group called California Wilderness Trainings, which I don't know if they're around anymore. This is going back a long time ago. And what happened, we do these different tasks. There'll be like, we do rappelling down a downside of a cliff. There was, damn, I remember the other ones did. We had trust walk, where you had to walk and like climb over all these different stuff, rocks and everything, blindfolded and following a rope along, all sorts of stuff. But one of the ones that was my go-to, because it was always the big one, was jumping for the ring. And this basically the setup was there was a tree with a ladder goes up 65 feet up the tree, like a rope ladder you climbed up. There was a block of wood stuck to the side of the tree you stood on, which is not enough for your feet to stand on, but used to be balanced. And there was a ring 10 feet out. hanging in front of you. And the goal was to go for the ring. And I've done this event a couple of times. And, climbed the rope, went for the ring, missed it. Second time I was going to do this. And we go up, basically, let me back up a second. There's about probably 60 of us all together going on this trip. And there's like groups of 15 or so going to each of the events. And like we broke up and do the events. And by the way, we are on a belay line. So you're not just climb up a tree without any someone. It's on a belay line. So the first time, climbed the ladder, got to the top, turned around, faced the ring, leapt for it, and clipped the edge of it, just like missed it by that much. And so the second time I was like, I've got to get for the ring, got to go for the ring. We get to the event, and I'm like second or third person to go up. And I start climbing the ladder, and I get 6 feet off the ground. And the guy who's holding the rope says, stop. I'm like, but I want to go up there. He says, stop. I said, what are you doing right now? And for the next 15 minutes, I'm hanging on the ladder, 6 feet off the ground, and he won't let me go up or down. Hey, Debbie. And basically what he was asking me was, why was I not letting the people who were in my group support me? I was focused on the goal, ignoring everybody around me. And by the time I got through my thick head, I realized how much I'd not let people in. Mm-hmm. What he did, he said, okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to let go of the ladder. I'm going to let you down myself. Like, I'm not going to be in control. And when I get to the ground, don't even support myself with my legs. Just let yourself fall to the ground completely. And then the rest of your group's going to take care of you for the rest of the day. And they took my helmet off, my harness off. They gave me water. They gave me food. It was one of the hardest things I ever went through. One of the most humbling as well. But that moment in time, so this is back like 86, I've always held a deep space aside to allow reception, not to be like, I deserve it, but I'm worthy of it. And that was transformational for me. So that was the receiving story. The giving story I want to share is a little different. And by the way, I've done that course like 4 or 5 times since, and staffed it a bunch of times because I love what they teach. September 2001, we all know where we were that month, September 11th. That was a Tuesday. I got licensed as a practitioner, spiritual counselor at my church, which is Agape International in LA, that in the end of 2000. So I was just a fresh new practitioner. And in 2001, we were going through what's called pulpit rotation, where we'd go up on stage and we'd read part of the service before the minister spoke. September 9th, Sunday, I led the meditation. Eyes closed. There was, 800, 900 people in the room, and but their eyes were closed. I could handle that. The following Sunday was the Sunday after September 11th. I went in to go up on stage to read some stuff to the audience with their eyes open. Let's just say I was a little nervous, because when we walked into the sanctuary, the space where the church was, instead of being a maximum of 1,200 people, there were double that in the room. They were packed to the wall, sitting on the carpet, sitting on the floor, because this is the Sunday after September 11th. Everyone needed support, wanted to get, consoling and support. Went up on stage, and basically when my name was called and walk up on stage, I remember getting up to the lectern and holding onto it like I was going to fall off a cliff, like holding on, because the energy of 2,000 people, 2,500 people counting about me, some of you know, isn't exactly small. I then proceeded to do what was supposed to be my duties on stage, to read the information, get the feedback from the audience and everything else. At the end of it, I felt this incredible gift of being a vehicle through which spirit can work, because I didn't have to do anything. Ultimately, I felt like I was initially, but by the time I finished doing the talking, I just knew that I was a vehicle and a vessel for love for them. And the applause and the reception wasn't for me, as they were being fed. And so to be able to feed them that way and be just this vehicle was such a gift. So I got one. So both sides of the coin, I've learned what giving is like, what receiving is like. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunities I've had. I've got plenty more, but that's 2 that all add to this conversation.
Wow.
Love that.
That's awesome.
Love that.
My chair broke. Sorry.
It was that profound. Wow.
I'm going to stand.
We got our brother Walt here.
Walt.
I love it. First, Barry, I love that talk about receiving too, because as givers, sometimes we need to be good receiving. 1, it feels great when you do, but 2, you don't rob somebody else from the opportunity to give to you. And so that's something I'm in constant evolution for that, because I love advising and giving. So I'll try to keep myself short, guys. You guys know how I am. So I think number one, I want to talk about just when the timing isn't right for you, it doesn't mean no, it means not yet. I think about being a young sailor. I had just won Sailor of the Year in the Navy, and I applied for an officer program and I got it. They were going to send me to school for 2 years in college. My wife was in college still at the time. We were just going to go together. I would have been a naval officer. Kumbaya. It would have been great. I was stationed in Japan at the time during 9/11, Barry. This is literally the same exact time frame. A month before 9/11, the Navy sent me a letter that said I was disqualified from the officer program for asthma because I wasn't worldwide deployable. So imagine my reaction at 24 years old, being told I wasn't worldwide deployable, but here I was stationed in Japan. You can't get much more worldwide than that. And, you know, we asked for a waiver because of the asthma. I had already been kicked off of submarines at that point for asthma, something I didn't even know that I had when I joined the Navy. And I didn't get the waiver because the military was downsizing. This is just before 9/11. And so I ended up getting stationed back in the States. 6 years later, I never lost my character, I never lost my integrity, and I never lost my work ethic. Those things always maintained, even though mentally I was done with the military and I was going to get out. I just needed to finish the 6-year obligated service that I had at that point for the contract that I had just signed. And about 5 years later, I guess, really, I was Sailor of the Year now as an E6 in the Navy. And I applied for another officer program. And out of 200 applicants, I was the only one selected. And the reality was, it wasn't good timing 5-6 years before that, because I would have been going on deployments rapidly over and over and over and over and over again. Having a wife and then young kids soon after that, it wouldn't have been great timing for my life and the purpose that I was supposed to fulfill. Nor would I have been able to come into contact with incredible mentors that made me, just kind of ushered me into manhood in a different way, from this hurt boy from the trauma to being a man and being able to stand in my own power and also inspire and motivate other people and lead other people around me. They taught me so much. And so I think for me, the inspiration really comes from disqualified subs, disqualified from an officer program, Sailor of the Year twice, a lot of success in there, but the timing wasn't right for what I was really chasing. And that was the officer program, until the timing was right. So for people that are out there listening, that are grinding, they're going through it, they're trying to make it, no matter what facet is, whether it's business, whether it's personal life, whether it's sobriety, whether it's healing from trauma, no matter what it is, understand that it's just constant growth that ultimately gets you to where you want to be. And when you're at the spot that you thought you wanted to be at 6 years before then, you're prepared, you're capable, and you can have the success and, more importantly, the impact on others during that time frame. I think the next piece for me, and I told this story before on here, is leaving corporate America. Leaving corporate America a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have wrote that book that's on the screen right now. I wouldn't have been able to speak all over the place. I can't tell you guys passively. It's like, as I continue to take these steps, how many speaking engagements I already have that are creating more income than I was making in corporate America as an executive. Already booked for this year. I mean, it's so crazy. And so, but again, timing, right? I had to learn all the lessons. I had to be an executive. I had to show myself I can do it before I could move into what my real life's purpose was, which is what I'm doing now. And then 2 more quick things. Number 1 is like seeing the growth in my wife. It's been so cool for me to watch. She talked about it on the first couple episodes of our podcast. She said, "This is not my jam. People think this is easy for Walt. He'll run through the fear. He don't even care. He just keeps going. He don't worry about judgment, nothing. For me, I'm not the same. I do worry about those things. I used to think, little old me, what do I have to offer?" And now the feedback she's getting is that she's powerful, like the feminine energy she brings, the power she brings, to couple with the masculine power I bring on this podcast, is already serving people in a huge way. And the feedback we've gotten in such a short period of time has really been life-changing for her. So to see my wife embrace the fear, do it anyway, knowing that if she wants to grow to her maximum potential, she has to do that, is such a huge blessing for me. And to see her get the love that maybe sometimes I get because I go speak on stages is really cool for me to just support her in that and be her biggest cheerleader like she's been mine. And the inspirational thing I'll say is, as a parent, we try to do the best job that we can do. We make mistakes, we make missteps, we say things we shouldn't sometimes, maybe because we're triggered in ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on our kids sometimes because we just want them to be the best version of themselves. And a year ago, when my daughter graduated from high school, she was senior class vice president. It wasn't a guarantee she would get to give the commencement speech. She asked to do it. One, the courage to ask when that's not a guarantee for you. She wrote a speech and then had to give it in front of a bunch of administrators before they approved, right? She got chosen. And what was really cool is to see my kid, who's a military kid, who's overcame a lot, stand up in front of 5,000 people at Arizona State University and give this speech like she'd been doing it her whole life. To see my kid come to me, because, teenagers are tough, and ask her dad, okay, what do you think? Here's where I'm at. Okay, how do you think I should articulate this? And really take a little bit of the feedback to help that talk become even better. And then to see her go up there, stand in front of 5,000 people, get the wrong notes put in front of her. They had the first draft, not the final. Close the book and just speak from her heart and absolutely crush it was one of my proudest moments as a father. So cool to see the fruition of that parenthood journey that we've taken with these, with our children who now become adults. And we hope that they're going to make these good decisions along the way. And all we can do is advise them. And so I wanted to take you through a few different facets, some personal stuff, one for my missus, and then one for my kids. It's been a beautiful journey, and I just appreciate you guys letting me share.
And again, I can't tell you enough thank you for your 20 years of service.
Thank you.
I love you, and I'm very proud of you, and I'm one of your biggest fans.
Love you too.
So.
And that's something else. I just want to, Walt, you mentioned something about watching a miracle or watching this inspiration for your wife and what she went through. And one of the beautiful things is that when you're present in your life and you have people in your life that you care about, when good things happen for them, it affects us too. We're just as invested. And sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? I've had my moments. I love watching your moments. This is fabulous. And so I'm glad you shared that, because those are moments you don't want to miss either. You don't want to miss their triumphs and their inspirational moments.
And if I was in corporate America, I would have missed all of them because I didn't know how to be present because I just worked. That was my thing. That's what I hung my hat on. I'm a hard ass worker and I will prevail because of that. But to see the courage, because I know how intimately, like, she would want to get sick the first couple of times she shared, like she was that fearful of doing it, and to do it anyway. And not only what that's doing for her and the people that she's serving with her voice, but what she's showing our daughters as they step into womanhood at 16 and 18 years old. It's just, as a dad, as a husband, I get to sit back and be like, this just makes my heart sing.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I'm going to let Rex go here in a second, but you kept saying one key thing that I always say, and that's, and it's funny because I just spoke at Scott Two Hips class last night, and I have really, I was pretty surprised at the things I said there, and I said it because I wasn't on camera, but I'm on camera now and I can see Scott, and I'm going to say these things, but it's one of those things when you realize that you're meant to do greater things, but yet the way you were brought up and the way you expect to be present and be, and things happen in a way that put shame on you, dim your light. You want to be invisible. You don't want to be present. And I always say, do it anyways, because if it wasn't for many people that have stepped in the light to show me their light, I have to give back what they've given to me. And November of 2019, I had a group that I became top producer for a company in the 1% at the time. And I had to be on stage in front of over 500 people. And then we were also live all globally. And I had to show up because there was people that believed in me, that inspired me, that I inspired them. And, you know, I had an issue and now I know I have a health condition, but I didn't know it. And all I felt is I just a has-been athlete and the way I look. But I had to go outside of how I look to show up, because you don't have people that show up and inspire you and you don't inspire them back. And so this picture here is, I says, if we wait until we're ready, that day will never come. Do it anyways. People depend on you to take the lead. And that's me in all my blue booty and leg glory. And I showed up, and my purple hair, very, very purple hair. And I showed up and I did it anyways. And so what I'm saying is I've been hiding this last year and a half with my diagnosis because I have had to realize how mean I am to myself. I have been one of the meanest girls out there, and I have to show up, and it doesn't defy what I look on the outside. It's who I am in the inside, but society doesn't allow you to, you know, see it any other way. But I realize that I'm up for this big challenge I have ahead of me. And yet I've got to do it anyways. You know, I got to get over myself. Most of the time, that's what it is for us, is get over yourself. When you have a mentor like Rex, who shows you to be happy and take what you've got and be joyous with it. He's been a great mentor and has helped me the last couple of years, and I'm forever indebted with that. But again, I just always had to feel like I had to explain who I am or to defy what people see, as opposed to, and at this point, so many people know me around the damn world. All I look at it is either you know me and you know, or you don't know me and you don't know. But I will be educating some people and being present for the greater good of what we think is the normal is not the normal. And, you know, and we've got the transgender, we got all these, and we got this and that. I mean, there's too much stigmatism for, you know, mental health and all these different things. So there's enough world for me and everybody else to be in it. And so what inspires me is because of everybody else, that's been inspirational for me to show up in honor of that. So it's not about me, but it's about everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so yeah, you kept saying, do it anyways, do it anyways. I just had to show you that I always say that, do it anyways.
You're such an amazing soul, my friend. I love you.
Oh, I love you.
Mr. Rex.
Wow. Well, so many wonderful, inspiring stories and moments. It's really nice to be here and to hear all of these and to be able to share in them from the way that each person tells them. I've got to say, life has been very, very good to me, and that most always, every day, there's inspiring moments that are fantastic and that are incredible. You know, apart from, you know, what I would call the best experience ever was the birth of both my children. You know, a couple of years apart, obviously, but you know, I nothing beats that. You know, it was just blessed and beyond belief to have these two remarkable children. But and some of you know, I mean, I wrote in my book, I devote a very little bit of a chapter to an experience that I had that was one of many crises in my life, and it's what's helped me to understand that everything is a gift and nothing is not a gift. So attitude is everything. But when I came out of my apartment, and because I'd locked myself into my apartment in order to meditate and reflect and try and figure out what had happened to me. When I started out, I ventured out kind of as a, you know, new eyes and new ears and very fragile. And I would sit in a lot of places and just watch and observe or meditate whenever I could or reflect. And I was sitting on a bus stop one night in Hollywood late at night, and I see all these people are walking down the sidewalk, and they hit this like uneven part in the sidewalk, right? And the minute they hit it and they stumble, they then turn around and look, you know, and then look to see if anybody noticed. And then they go on their way as if nothing happened. And I watched person after person after person do this. And after a while, this drunk comes staggering up. He's got a bottle and he's, you know, in a bag, and he's doing the whole thing, and he's just all over the place. And he stops in front of this. It was a church with a big bush in front of it. And he stops and he takes a swig. And he falls backwards into this bush. His feet just come right up into the air, and he's, you know, his head is down where his feet should be, and he's in the middle of this big bush. And all of a sudden, you hear, and he laughs and he laughs and he laughs, and And if you didn't know that what had happened, you just think this was like this laughing bush, right? Because you couldn't see anything out of the top of this thing. And I'm watching from across the street, and he manages to extract himself from the bush, and he gets out and he laughs and he laughs, and he's walking off the street laughing. And I realized at that moment it's how you approach things. Mm-hmm. This guy gave me the gift of laughter. He laughed where everybody else was trying to manage their, how their appearance and what they did and whether they made a mistake or didn't make a mistake, if anybody caught him or something. This guy just let it all loose and was like, right. So I tell some people this story. I describe it, the whole thing. I was doing small workshops after that, and I would tell the story. Many, many years later, I'm again sitting somewhere, and this guy sits down, and he's this like little old Ukrainian guy, right? And we're talking about this and the other thing. He said, "Let me tell you a story I heard." I go, "Okay, what?" He goes, "There's this guy sitting on a bus stop, people, and they're all like tripping up, and then this drunk comes along, falls in, and he cracks up." Now, this is like a decade later. This guy heard this story in the Ukraine. And it's my story.
You sure it's not about the dog and the horse and the guy? But never mind.
No, but I mean, and I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this. My story's gone all the way around the world. Some guy heard it from someone in the Ukraine. He's now, the universe has brought us together on a bus stop, and he's telling this story. And I'm like, my words went around the world. I mean, who would have thought that we had that kind of impact? Because I didn't broadcast it. I didn't put it in books. I didn't do anything like that. It just went around the world. Then I fast forward to about 8 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, somebody said, "Hey, I got some tickets to a free seminar." And this was one of these seminar giants, what's described here earlier. So I go, "Yeah, I'd like to do it." So I make the time to take the 2 days, 3 days off to do this workshop. I go into the workshop, and they're teaching my stuff. Almost verbatim. They're teaching my stuff. I wouldn't have known had I not gone. The guy's doing this stuff. He's doing this and that, and it's sequence. My sequence of the whole thing. And had I not had the experience of this stuff going around the world, to this little Ukrainian guy, I might have been mad. But I realized, oh my God, somebody's taking my stuff, and nobody's giving me credit for it, but they're putting it out there, and people are benefiting from it the same way that people benefited from the story about the guy laughing on, in the bush. And I went, it is so just remarkable how interconnected everything is, and none of it's ours. It's all, it's just the world, and it's consciousness, and it's awareness, and it's bliss. And the more we can just let go and laugh and live and love and have a good time, the easier things become. And they really do. And so that inspired me. This little guy, the little drunk, I was just this wave of stuff because I saw this guy laugh at late, like 3 a.m. Out in Hollywood, off of Hollywood Boulevard. So that to me is my story.
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Cool. The poor guy got out of rehab, and 10 years later, he heard a story about how he felt in the bush. I don't know what you're worried about.
But I appreciate you reframing that and seeing it through a different lens. That's a big key. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And again, he could have laughed or he could have cried about it, and he chose the latter.
But that's the gift of laughter. There are things that happen to us in life, and you can step over the line and get angry about it and feel like a fool about it, or you can step on the other side of the line and laugh your ass off. And then, you come to realize that laughing your ass off is the healthier version, is the healthier choice to make. We all have those choices throughout life. Laugh at your mistakes, laugh at stuff, because otherwise it'll come back to haunt you.
Absolutely. Well, what's really sad is the fact that there's a huge body of evidence that says positivity and optimism is the healthiest choice that you can make, because you release the right neurotransmitters, the right hormones. When you have a thought, an emotional thought, you release something like 200 different chemicals into your system. And so many people spend their life not being present, but either living in the past or living in the future, and squirting all the wrong chemicals from negativity and fear and doubt and worry and sadness and depression. And, and they repeat these things over and over again. Yep. Let me tell you how broken I am. And then let me tell you how broken I am. And then let me tell you how broken I am. And what happened with the barista this morning and the guy that gave me the finger on the freeway, and they just keep perpetuating. And yet, you know what? We've got all the evidence we need, you know, Bernie Siegel, Norman Cousins, and all the other not anecdotal evidence, but the actual medical, physical, neuroscientific, you know, neuropsychological, you know, immunology and the whole thing that just says, you know, your attitude matters, and how you live your life. The more joy that you have in this moment, the more joy you get back in the moment.
So you know what? Don't be that squirt.
Yeah.
Don't be the wrong squirt.
I got to tell you something, though. You know, this is a battle I fight every day. And Rex, I'm sure you'll understand. I'm sure you'll all understand this. Where people fail is they don't understand that positivity and happiness is a choice.
Right.
That they have complete control over whether they're happy or sad. They got complete control over whether they're going to get angry or they're going to laugh. Right. They have control, and people have given up that control, and they are all victims of everything around them. And they're happy victims because as long as I'm a victim, I don't have to be responsible for anything.
Because that's the habit that they created for themselves, and that's all they know.
But there is, go ahead, say there's something else on top of that, and that is even a lot of our thought gurus talk about, you know, like positive thinking is there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no. That's not positive thinking. That's delusional thinking.
That's right.
Right. Positive thinking is I can weed my garden, I can make it look beautiful. Then you hear these concepts about toxic positivity. Like, oh, you know, like you're too positive could be a problem. I mean, however they can rain on someone's parade in order to get them into a work.
Rex,
you know, I mean,
Rex, I was at a many years ago at the beginning of my speaking career. I saw this woman. She went up and she was speaking. She was a psychiatrist, and it was a convention for psychiatrists and psychologists. Close to 1,000 people in the audience. And these people are you should see them. They're all sitting here, you know, like this. And she's talking about the difference between Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. And she was talking about what Freud thought about dreams about sex and what Carl Jung thought about what sex was. And as she's pacing the stage, she's walking and her slip falls down. Her slip that she was wearing under her dress falls down to her ankles. There's dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. You could see her. She goes like this. She holds her breath. She kicks off the slip with her ankle to the side of the stage, and she goes, and that's what you call a Freudian slip. And everyone, she got a standing ovation. A standing ovation from complete embarrassment that she could have, because it looked like she was going to run off the stage. But when she turned what I call her humor being loose, and she saw the laugh, a standing fucking ovation that blew me away. I said that was the coolest thing.
That would have went viral if it was video taken.
Oh, absolutely. That was many years ago.
Love that.
Yeah.
But
you can recreate.
But let me tell you, if any of you guys are familiar with these self-help groups, 12-step groups and things like that, they got something called the pink cloud. When somebody gets sober at first, you're kind of on a pink cloud, like, oh my God, life is wonderful. I've been free and clear for 48 hours. I feel great. And, you know, they start to get really excited about their sober life. And all the old timers come up and say, you're going to fall off that cloud. Get ready for the crash. You're going to feel like shit. And you know what? When I got sober the second time to save my life, I said, you know what? Fuck you. I'm not falling off this cloud. You know why? Because I know what it's like to live down in the basement. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not always going to be on the cloud. Sometimes I'm going to take a road trip. I'm going to find depression and sadness and other things. But my home base is going to be on that goddamn pink cloud, and I've earned the right to do that. We've all earned the right to be happy in our lives. Don't let anybody tell you you don't have the right to be happy. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't be happy. And if you want to buy into that shit, remember, that's your choice, too, to buy into it.
May I add one thing to that?
Yeah.
Please.
You know, when it comes to, you know, dead on, spot on, exactly right what you said. It's a choice, and you determine, and you're responsible and accountable, and no one else is. But you know what Freud and Jung have in common? They're dead. No, but what I'm saying is they are no more, but they're affecting people as if they're alive. People are quoting Freud, quoting Jung. They're saying, this is my problem. And people are doing the same thing. Their memories of their past problems are all dead. They're gone. They don't exist anymore except as a thought.
Right.
And future worries don't exist yet, except as something that they anticipate, which may or may not ever happen. People just constantly live choosing, albeit out of habit, but choosing to be anywhere but right here and now, enjoying what they could be doing right
Well,
here.
that's the only place where you can be happy is in the now.
Yeah.
And the reason why most people or people aren't happy is because they're bringing their past toxic labels from the past into the present, or they're worrying about the future, totally avoiding from living in the moment.
There are two other possibilities to that, and I completely agree. You're either dragging a negative past, or you're going, the past was so good that the present pales by comparison, or the future will be so rosy that now doesn't count. So you have the opportunity to look back in multiple ways, but when you're looking back or forward, you're missing here and now.
And if people could remember,
what?
I was going to say, and if people could remember, you get what you put out. So why don't you start putting out happy thoughts instead of the crappy stuff? So when it comes around, you're getting the happy shit back, not the shitty shit that you stuck out there.
We've only got a couple minutes left. So let's go around. We'll let everybody do like a 30-second wrap up. But what I will tell you is that you guys all inspire me, all of you. Lynn, Scott, Walt, Barry, Rex, Steve, my man, Steve. You guys all inspire me. Rex, I'm going to be thinking about you coming out of that tunnel with the team, or Scott. I mean, I'm going to think. Yeah, I'm sorry. I switched your histories, guys. No, Scott, I'm going to be thinking about that, and Steve, I'm going to be thinking about you on the beach, and all you guys. I'm going to be thinking about your stories. And I started this show today feeling kind of down, and the truth is, I'm just tired. I've been working a little too much, and I'm a little too tired, and I got to take some time for me. But you guys energize me simply with positivity, with hope, with honesty, and I appreciate all of you for that.
Love you, Scott.
So let's go around. I love all of you guys. Let's go around and give everybody a 30-second wrap up for themselves on their inspiration and happiness.
There you go, Walt.
All right. So look, I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and they said, Walt, you always talk about your life challenges. Everybody, therapy, counseling I've been to, they talk about, I need to fix something. And I looked at her right in her eyes and I said, why do you need to fix something that's going to give you gifts and that you should be empowered from? You just need to switch your mindset and how you think about it. And I said, start to look at your life resume. And this is what everybody needs to do. Look at your life resume. Realize that every time you've been challenged and you made the choice to grow and figure out why the challenge has come to your doorstep, when you get to the other side of that, there's always success, abundance, joy, happiness. Growth in life doesn't come from the easy things. So embrace the hard things and figure out what the lesson is. And then take a look at your life resume and realize every single time you've done it, it's been super fruitful on the other side. That'll keep you moving forward.
Man, I love it. Woohoo!
Yes.
Woohoo!
Wow.
Walt, I got to play off you there. One of the concepts that I created and I teach consistently, in any situation in life, you can turn any negative into a learning lesson.
Yep.
And that is by asking 5 questions. What's the gift? What's the lesson? What did I do to create it? How do I modify it next time to make it better? How's this going to serve me the rest of my life?
I love it.
There's always a gift. There's always a lesson. You always had participation in creating it. Therefore, you have the ability to change it the next time around and ultimately now figure out how this is going to serve you going forward and use it as your launching pad. Just that simple.
Wow. Love
Absolutely.
it.
Wow.
Barry.
Follow that.
Yeah.
Real quick. There's 8 billion people on the planet. But out of those 8 billion people, you're the only one of you. So you are inspirational by being on the planet, by being existing right now. So the temptation may be, as I said earlier, about living in the past because that may be a better place, or you just have issues with that, or living in the future because you think it's going to be better then. The reality is you're breathing now, your heart's beating now. That's a miracle. Own it, enjoy it, and live an inspirational life. And best thing is, you can do that for other people too. Love them, share with them, be kind to other people, be the inspirational story other people will tell.
Wow.
Ooh, love it. Steve, Rizzo.
Oh, okay. I want to segue to what Walt said earlier because I thought it was so important. It was about people complaining about when is my time going to come. I think something that needs to be added on to that is sometimes your time comes, but you're so caught up on when is it going to happen, that time passes you by. You're not aware that it even happened. Those three things that I mentioned to you folks earlier, the time when I was doing my Showtime special and Woody Harrelson came up to me and he said, "What do you want for an intro?" And I told him, "You tell him you're going to bring up someone who was voted least likely to succeed in his senior class in high school. And now he's here at the Sands Hotel in Atlantic City, blah, blah, blah." Something clicked in me and I held on to it. I was very aware that what happened, very aware. Otherwise, I would have let that moment pass me by. I was very aware that, whoa, I am now at the beginning stages, finally in my life, where my negative past, those labels are not going to control me anymore, because I already proved to myself that I have my Showtime special. Woody Harrelson is introducing me and I'm going to kick ass. That was my mindset, but I was aware of it. I could have very easily have let that moment go by and not be aware of what happened. Same thing with me accepting that award in front of thousands of people for the National Speakers Association, Speaker Hall of Fame. And I'm thinking, as for days, man, all my opening acts are big stars now. Did I make the right decision? When I went on that stage, total clarity hit me. When I'm looking at these thousands of people, I'm saying, oh my God, everyone in this room wants to be a spark that can ignite change in people's lives. This is what I was put on this planet to do. Boom, another awareness that I was very aware of. And the most important awareness that came to me was when I was on that beach and I was at my rock bottom. Couldn't get any lower. And when I realized that, whoa, this person that's talking to me is God. And I was very aware for the first time in my life that God isn't here. God isn't here. God is here. And God is talking to me right now at this moment in time. That was awareness. All of us have these opportunities, I believe, that come to us in our lives. But if you're not acutely aware that that moment is here, you're still going to have that same mindset of when is it going to happen? And I think sometimes that higher power is going, you asshole, it just happened, but you didn't acknowledge it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It's there. You've got to be aware of what's happening in your life.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Excellent.
Mr.
If
Rex.
you falter, stumble, or fall, laugh.
Nice.
I've heard that story before.
I was thinking the same thing.
The little Ukrainian guy.
What's the alternative?
Right.
Exactly.
Laughter is the pit stop in the rat race of life, in that it gives you enough emotional fuel and repairs to get back into the race again. Who wrote that? Steve Rizzo. Sorry. Thank you.
And Rex says dog shit or diamonds.
I love that. Dog shit or
Yep.
diamonds.
Choose. Yep. That's right. You choose what to think. And remember, whatever you choose to think, it's either going to be a negative or a positive outcome. And what goes out always comes back.
Yep.
So maybe keep those things in mind next time, and just know and appreciate and honor those that have inspired you. We are to pay it forward and to keep this cycle of life going. So
we
Scott?
are all big, beautiful people.
Yes.
And like all big, beautiful things, big, beautiful
We
buildings,
are the champions, my friend.
whether it's buildings or monuments, the foundation of every one of those things is in the dirt, and it's in the rock, and it's in the mud, and it's not in the easy place. It's in the hard place. Yep. But I would not trust a building without a foundation. Absolutely. So we all have to go through what we go through so that we can build the beautiful on top of it.
Love it.
And you guys are all beautiful. Thank you for building your buildings and sharing that with everybody today.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Thanks,
Love
all.
you guys. Bye.
Let me see.
Keeping me